It's time now for a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France, and we can say good morning to Clément Bonnereau. Hi, Clément. Now, you're starting out with Israel's airstrikes in Syria over the weekend.
That's right, and we start with the front page of Libération. The headline reads, Israel, Syria, Iran, the crash test. Now, I'm sure you can appreciate the pun. What Libération is trying to say is that this weekend's events, with Iran allegedly sending a drone across the Israeli-Syrian border and Israeli retaliating by launching a large-scale air raid, are perhaps just a test to see how the different parties involved in the Syrian conflict will react. Israel, Iran, Syria, as well as Turkey, the US and other powers are all pursuing interests in the region, and by doing so, they all risk coming into direct confrontation, so it's not clear exactly how far they can go.
Now, is there a risk of all-out war in the region between Iran, Israel and other powers involved in the conflict?
Well, right now, an all-out war between all the big players involved in the Syrian conflict is unlikely, but there is a risk that the situation could get out of control. As an expert interviewed in Libération puts it, an escalation would be in no one's interest, but everyone has their finger on the trigger. So observers will definitely be keeping a close eye on the situation. As Iran continues to extend its influence in Syria, Israel is likely to become increasingly nervous. So far, both parties have vowed restraint, but their interests are deeply incompatible, Libération writes. And this is true of all parties involved in Syria, actually. I want you to have a look at this cartoon, also in Libération. You see Israel, Iran and the Syrian government, Turkey, Russia, all with their finger on the trigger. They're all eager to get their slice of the Syrian cake, if you will, and they're all taking advantage also of the Islamic State group's defeat in the country.
Now, meanwhile, here in France, the former budget minister, Jérôme Cahuzac, goes on trial once again. Now, he was given a 3-year prison sentence for tax fraud and later appealed the court's ruling.
That's right. Jérôme Cahuzac was forced to resign in 2013 after it emerged that he'd held an undeclared bank account in Switzerland and then lied about it. The affair was a huge embarrassment at the time for the former president, François Hollande, but it sparked an unprecedented wave of reforms to tackle tax evasion in France. Le Parisien, however, reminds us that much more needs to be done in that regard. Wealthy businessmen and politicians around the world continue to take advantage of legal loopholes to avoid tax and cheat the system. Le Parisien says that only a global harmonization of banking rules would guarantee victory against fraudsters.
Now, in other news here in France, Emmanuel Macron announced he wants to reorganize Islam in France. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's not entirely clear. Macron says that he wants to move slowly on this, perhaps acknowledging that this is a very sensitive issue. He says that the aim of the consultation that he wants to launch is to lay the groundwork for the entire organisation of Islam in France. This in order to better integrate worship, fight fundamentalism and preserve national cohesion. Now, once again, it's not very clear, but it seems that what Macron wants to achieve is to make sure, first, that Muslim organisations are more representative. It's a well-known fact that many French Muslims feel they're not sufficiently represented by current institutions. Another aim of the plan, Macron says, is to reduce the influence of Gulf countries, which have been accused of spreading a very conservative interpretation of Islam in the country. As the Huffington Post reminds us, though, Macron is not the first president to tackle the issue. Before him, Nicolas Sarkozy launched a national debate on national identity and immigration, which was blamed for stoking tensions in French society and fueling racism.
And we end with some sports news now, and a first gold medal for France at the Winter Olympics underway in Pyeongchang.
That's right. Perrine Lafont won France's first gold medal of the Games, beating the defending champion Justine Dufour-Lapointe to win the freestyle women's moguls. It was a lifelong dream for the 19-year-old. She's on the front page of L'Équipe. Congratulations to her.
Indeed. Clément Bonnereau, thank you very much for that look at what's happening, grabbing the headlines here in France.